Good morning, Hampton Roads. How's everybody doing today? And welcome to Virginia's only local real estate investing podcast, where we get to talk about local investors, local deals, and all things local. I'm your host, the founder of the Master Investor Academy, and author of my best-selling book, Scott Jelinek. How you guys doing today? If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, anything you'd like to discuss on here, or a property you'd like me to talk about on the podcast, go ahead and text me at 699-4227. If you have not done so already, go ahead and subscribe to either this channel or this podcast, depending on where you're watching it. And if you were on the podcast, go ahead and leave me a review. Greatly appreciate it. And you can also put down your personal information where you'd like to be contacted as far as joining our buyers list. So just a reminder again, we still have a couple spots left for our 2-day workshop. This will be a life-changing event. It is going to be on January 30th and 31st right here in Virginia Beach. It's going to be 2 full days, 8:30 to 5 each day. And we are going to go over everything about the 5 pillars of real estate investing. That's marketing, wholesale, rehabs, rentals, and raising private money, as well as my slow flip formula, which is working fantastic. If you are in our local market, it is unbelievable. The best thing we've ever done. So get yourself registered. We only can fit a few people in the room because, as you know, we have restrictions on capacity. So it's only going to be about 10 people in the room. So go ahead and get yourself registered. You can text me at 757-699-4227, and I will give you the information and go ahead and send you a link to get signed up. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a question that one of my coaching students texted me yesterday. He's in the process of getting his very first deal, and he got the contract now ratified. But as he was getting in the final stages, the guy asked him, can you give me $1,000 deposit? And so he texts me, the guy wants $1,000 deposit. What should I do? And so this is a really, really good question. And then I want to tell you a story about why I'm so committed in this direction. So my short answer is absolutely not. We do not give deposits. We do not give earnest money. We do not give anything unless it's a listed property. If you're dealing with an agent, yes, you're always going to have to give earnest money deposit. But I never, ever, ever give a seller an earnest money deposit. Ever, never. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So besides that, if in fact you're in a situation where you have to give a deposit, meaning like I've had one deal, I told you guys about this deal. I did this flood house and it was a great deal, but she had a lawyer involved because there was a big insurance claim and he wrote up the contract and he required me to give a deposit. I'm okay in certain circumstances as long as, and this is important to remember this, as long as the deposit goes to your attorney and not to the seller. Pay attention there. If you have to give a deposit, now first off, I recommend never giving a deposit. But if you must give a deposit, you have to give it to the seller, to the attorney or title company, your attorney or title company, and not to the seller. And I'm going to tell you what happened with mine that went bad, which set me in this trajectory. And then I'm also going to tell you about what people think happens and what actually happens if, in fact, you gave a deposit and then defaulted. So this goes back probably about 2008. And I had a guy working for me at the time. This is when I was trying to scale a larger company. And I had a guy working for me as a buyer. And he went out in Hampton and he got this contract. And the girl wanted a $2,000 deposit. He signed it. It's a good deal. We're going to make 30, 40 grand on it. But she wanted a $2,000 deposit. We normally don't. But he's telling me, he's like, well, she said she's not going to sign unless we give her a deposit. Again, I know it's 13 years ago, but I was already in the business for a while. But naively, I said, okay. So not only did we give her the deposit, she didn't even have a car. So my guy had to drive to her house, pick her up, drive her to the bank to cash my check, $2,000, and then take her back home. All is well in the world, right? So now this is an inherited house. So now about 15, 20 days go by and we're getting ready to close. This was an inherited house and they didn't have the list of heirs filed. So again, the lawyer prepared it. My guy drove over, picked her up, went to the courthouse, recorded the list of heirs. You know how that works. You got to swear under oath, yada, yada. They recorded against the deed. All is well. We go back. Title search is in. Everybody's happy. She comes in for closing. She signs the documents. I sign the documents. It's a closed deal, right? It's a done deal. I got keys to the house. Then that afternoon, her brother calls the attorney. Her brother calls the attorney and says, how you doing? My sister just said she sold the house we inherited from my mother. How was she able to sell it? Blah, 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 blah. The attorney now is like, screeched. Okay, well, now he had knowledge, even though it was just a phone call, he had knowledge that there may or may not be another heir, cancels the whole deal, refunds the money, and says, okay, well, we can't close this. We have somebody saying that they're an heir, even though she swore under oath. That's her business, but the lawyer can't do it. So we call her back and we say, well, what's the deal with your brother? Well, he's an ass. I'm not. Well, we can't close unless he's going to sell. Well, he doesn't want to sell. All right. Well, we need our $2,000 back. Huh? Scott who? Scott who? I'm sorry. She don't. I'm sorry. I got a bad connection. And the short answer is no. We never got the $2,000 back. Lesson learned. A couple things I want to talk about that deal. If she did not go home and brag to her brother, and the next day passed and it closed, which it did close, but it got recorded and dispersed, and then the brother called, like if the brother didn't call till the very next day, it wouldn't be an issue, because now the brother would make a claim. There would be a title insurance claim. She would probably be in a legal mess, a criminal legal mess, and I would still be protected. I own the property. Title insurance would pay out the brother. It would be a whole different ballgame. But because it didn't actually get recorded when they called, the lawyer was able to had to make a judgment call. He's not allowed to move forward now that he has knowledge of this potential brother. So one other thing I want to touch on, this is something that's important that people always have a misconception on. People think that if you give a deposit, so let's say you give $2,000, right? You gave $2,000 and then did not close, that money is automatically given to the seller. That is not the case. That money is held in escrow. If you give it to an attorney or title company, that money is held in escrow. And let me preface this by saying I am speaking for Virginia. I don't know if the laws are different in other states, but in Virginia, if I give an earnest money deposit to an attorney, that attorney holds that money in escrow. And if you disappear, die, whatever, and it does not close for any reason, it does not mean your money goes to the seller like a parting gift or a sorry, he failed, here's the money. You can either A, sign a release, releasing that money to them, or you could not. And that's always up to negotiation. You may say, listen, I'm not able to close for whatever reason. I'll agree to sign a release if you agree to only take $500 of my $2,000. The seller may say, no, I'm not doing that. Well, guess what? Then nobody signs a release and he doesn't get the money. The only way he's going to get that money now is to sue you and to go to court and sue you. But the caveat to that, and keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer, so take it for what it's worth. I'm telling you from my experience, is that now while it's in court, he can't sell it to anyone else. So in the end, he's going to be like, listen, I want to do a release so I can get this new buyer closed, because he can't do it while this is still pending in court. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but this has been my experience. So don't think that just because you gave a deposit, if something came up or for whatever reason you were not able to close, that you automatically lose that money. You do not, unless you sign the release. Or if they sue you and it goes to court and the judge rules that it be released to the seller. Other than that, you don't. But to avoid any of that, straight up front, the easiest way is just don't give an earnest money deposit. We never do. Very, very rarely do we ever have to. And generally it's for extenuating circumstances. Something happened where there's a lawyer involved and the lawyer has it in his paperwork and he has to have it that way. But when you're dealing with a motivated seller, and remember, a motivated seller, they don't get to call the shots and say, I'll only do it if. We're dealing with motivated sellers, and we do not give earnest money deposits. The last thing in the world you want to do is give somebody who may be broke or desperate for money or losing everything cash in hand. That may be the last time you ever see them. And one last thing, and then I'm going to move on and let you go. If you give a seller earnest money deposit, keep this in mind. You don't even have any way to know two different things. You don't, one, have any way to know if they're even the owner. They could be a tenant calling you saying, oh yeah, I'll sell my house for 50 grand, but I want $5,000 earnest money or $1,000 earnest money. And you cut them a check and then title search comes in and they're not even the seller. Is it illegal? Yes. Do people do illegal things? Of course. So so you're not protected. You have no title search. You don't even know that they're actually the person. You don't check ID. You don't know anything about who actually owns the property. The second thing is they may own a property. Let's say it's worth 100 grand. They may have 300 grand of tax liens against it. You haven't done a title search yet. So there's no way you may think, oh, well, if they don't come through, I'm going to put a lien against the property. Well, that's all great. Unless you're behind $300,000 worth of IRS liens, you're not getting that money back. So short and simple, the best way I can tell you. And Alex, I know you asked me this yesterday, so I wanted to make sure to reiterate why we do what we do. We do not give earnest money deposits. All right. No EMD, no deposits, period. And if there's a circumstance where we must, it only goes to your attorney or your title company. That's all I got for you guys today. If you have not done so already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like the video. And if you're interested in coming to our 2-day workshop, it's going to be a life-changing event, especially right now where we're going into what's probably going to be looked back at as the best time in real estate investing moving forward in 2021. Go ahead and get yourself registered. You can text me at 757-699-4227, and I will send you a link to get you signed up. And that's all I got for you today. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Do something today that your future self is going to thank you for, and I will see you.